did football come into play throughout this time frame?
In Saudi, we used to play in the streets.
Wow.
You know, they didn't have organized football, so I came up playing soccer and baseball. I was athletic, gifted, and so when I came to America, it just blew my mind that I could play organized football. You know, and, from the get, I was very good at it, and so that kind of helped me find my place. You know, and that kind of started subconsciously in me my worth as an athlete and my worth as a football player. You know, and here in America, I would like to say that's getting worse, you know, because as a father and as parents, you want your kids to play sports, you want your kids to experience competition, you know, because competition brings the best out in everybody. But bringing in social media, bringing in the expectations, this and that, and a kid will grow up thinking that not only am I an athlete, but that's the only way I can make it. That's the only way I can get millions of dollars. That's the only way I can get respect. Right. And so we have to find a way to build a young person up in sports, but also say, hey, you're good at this, but you're also great at this. You know what I'm saying? And let them kind of decide where they want to take that.
Would you agree with the assertion that a lot of young people often lose themselves trying to pour energy into something else? For example, do you think it'll be plausible for a young person? This is a question for you too as well, Glenn.
Okay.
Do you think it's possible to lose your own worth in the pursuit of another worldly activity?
I think that's, I agree with that. I think you can lose yourself because I think you should just be yourself, because all of us have a special niche. We all have something very special in us that we do very well without any formal training. That's called your gift. And if you try to emulate somebody else, when we come together, that means that I won't receive your gift and you won't receive my special gift. So it's so important for us to be ourselves so we can receive that special gift instead of trying to emulate somebody else. If you want to emulate somebody, emulate Jesus. Jesus is the epitome of all men. He's perfect in every facet of life. So you want to be like somebody? Be like Jesus. I like Michael Jordan, but now since I have a true value system, I want to be like Jesus.
What was your initial feeling when your son told you, hey, look, Dad, I'm done with football?
I was at work, and one of my lawyer buddies called me. I didn't even know Glenn had retired, right? And he said, man, I'm watching CNN, and Glenn is announcing his retirement. And when he said that, I felt like I had taken a blow to the gut. I'm a former fighter. I know what it feels like to get hit in the gut. I felt like somebody actually hit me in the gut.
I see you filling your shirt pretty well.
So so my emotions were all over the place. So I was worried, I was confused, I was mad because he didn't talk to me first. He didn't call me and discuss it with me, right? But so immediately I called Glenn, and he was in the interview, and I was like, man, are you all right? He was like, yeah, Dad. I said, what happened? He was like, man, Dad, I was in the locker room last night, and God just came so pointed to my heart. And when he told me that, I kind of relaxed. I eased up a little bit, and then I felt this satisfying, warm, feeling like I've been clothed with an ocean breeze, right? And before I know it, God was talking to my heart unexpectedly. I just didn't expect God to dial in.
Right.
I didn't want to talk to God. I wanted to find out why my son had retired from, from the 49ers. But God is God, and when I figured out God was there, I actually trembled because I just felt unworthy for God to be talking to me. He's sovereign. God is the elite being. He's the supreme being. So God was talking to me, man, and I was like, after I kind of got myself together, I was like, man, God, what's my role?
So with that being said, do we ever question God?
We're human. Glenn and I was talking about this before, God knows us better than we know ourselves. And he knows our hearts. And, I think when we question God and talk to God, like, why God, why? I think God, in a way, I think it pleases God, because God doesn't need anything from us. God just wants us to be grateful. That's all he wants. It's nothing, we can't give God anything. God don't need anything from us. He just wants us to be grateful. That's all he wants,
So kind of piggybacking off of this same this same little thing. Glenn, knowing after you made the decision that you were going to have to face your dad, you're going to have to face your family, your friends, all these people have these expectations of you. What was running through your mind the moment after you made the decision? One of the, I'm sure, the biggest decisions of your life.
Yeah. For me, I knew that it was no turning back. And so I took solace in the fact of knowing that I had really given it up to the Lord. Regardless of whether he told me to leave or stay or whatever, I said, you know what I'm saying? I said, Lord, I'm done. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I just need you. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to play ball no more, so like, I put it on your shoulders. And that was that. You know, so as far as talking to family or friends or whoever, it wasn't, I'm very even, you know what I'm saying? Low key. I don't go too low, I don't go too high. I mean, I've been pretty low. But you know, for the most part I stay like this. And so when I made that choice, I had already moved on. You know, I had already moved on.
Yeah, decision was already made.
Yeah.
So how did your teammates feel about that decision? From college to professional?
In college, they weren't surprised. You know what I'm saying? I've always kind of walked to my own beat. They weren't surprised, but in the league, it was kind of like leaving a fraternity. You know, once I was gone, I was gone. It wasn't like we was talking to each other on the phone and this and that. And regardless, in the NFL, it's not built on relation like that. So your group of college friends is not the same as your group of NFL friends. You know, it's just separate entities.
We really love one another. If we want America, if we want nation under God, I mean, we should practice inclusion. Let's love everybody. You know?
Right.
So that was my input on it.
Exactly.
So did I kind of answer your question?
No, it does. And I was kind of getting at that, and I brought up sports to tie it all together because I feel as if as humans at this point in the world, we're not all on the same team. It's so much divisive.
Yes.
Everybody's got their opinion or everybody's got their stance, and they are unable to put their stance aside to connect with a brother or sister, you know? And I think that the way sports can bring that all together is, I know from my history playing sports, every sports team I was always on, each team member, you never looked at them for what they were outside of that sport. You know, when they stepped in the locker room or they stepped on the field, you saw nothing but who they were on that field and who they were as a teammate.
Your brother and sister.
Exactly. I think that's how sports can kind of bring that family, that team back to us, and maybe that can bridge the gap on all of our differences. One more question. So when you first made the decision that you were going to be done,
Yeah.
and after, I'm thinking more of the aftermath. What would you say was the number one thing you missed about the life that you would just let go of? And why would you say you missed that the most? Or if there was anything, or if there was a few things, what were the things that you sat back sometime and said, dang, I could be, you know?
You talking about as far as the NFL and stuff like that?
As far as leaving the NFL, but it doesn't have to necessarily be something to do with the NFL. It could be something that came along with it, or you know what I mean?
Right. So the title of the book, right? There's more to life than the pursuit of money. At that particular time, I'm very frugal and I'm very minimalistic. You know, when I was in the league, I had one car, I had one piece of jewelry, it was a watch, my bottle, like you got on.
Oh, thanks, man.
I had one piece of furniture. I had a bed somebody gave to me. As a matter of fact, the FCA director from here visited me at Bama, and he realized I didn't even have any bed sheets. Like, this is how I live. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in the NFL as a third round draft pick. But I've come to realize as a 30-year-old that it's not about the money, but it's about people's time.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, I was just talking to somebody about this, I feel like if we think about how do I get more time to spend with whoever, whether it's myself or somebody else, the money will come. You know what I'm saying? Instead of thinking, how do I make more money? How do I get more time? And pursue it like that. So when I look at it now, I want to farm. If I was in a league and wanted to farm, I would have had everything I needed to start the farm up, to have a driveway that's 3 miles long, a dirt road off in the middle of nowhere, and start and really live how I want to live. Now I have to do this, and this to get to that point. While when I was in the league, I had the capital just to boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? So as far as missing anything, I don't miss anything because I learned a lot of lessons. But now when I think about life and I think about the future, I just think about how do I get to the point.
All right, so to piggyback off that just a little bit, obviously your former team, San Francisco 49ers, have been in the news these last few years for one of their, what I would consider one of their better players, who seem to have been, for lack of a better word, blackballed by the league. I guess my question to you is, what do you think it would take for an NFL player to reverse the stigma about himself? And do you think, and overall, what do you think about how Kaepernick's been treated through this entire process?
When you say reverse the stigma, are you talking about him in particular or anybody who's kind of?
I'm not talking about him in particular. I'm kind of talking about anybody that's in a similar situation where, because I honestly, we see this similar situation, even if it's not in football, we see it across different disciplines.
Right.
You know, where someone speaks out and the powers that be, you know, decide that what they've said, they've taken it too far.
So I'm gonna be 100% candid with this answer, and if I offend anybody, you know, I'm apologizing now. I'm sorry. In my personal experience, as a black man, people expect me to do one of two things, and not necessarily just white people. Anybody who's in a powerful position, anybody who is in a authoritative position, they expect one or two things out of me. Either for me to act black, whatever that means, whatever that means, and to build my worth in that, and stuff that really doesn't matter, because that's a stereotype about black people, is that we care about the things that really don't matter. And they want me to be that, and they want me to be that, but they don't want me to be that. And if I'm not that, if I'm confident in who I am, if I walk around speaking intelligently, if I'm asking people how their day are going, and I'm achieving goals, and I'm on the right path, that's intimidating. So it's one of two things as a black man. You're either acting black, which people don't like, or you're walking around with a confident air about yourself, and that's intimidating, and that's not really. It's not really, people don't know how to receive that, you know. So I think as a people, we need to understand, one, color is only color. You know, there really is no black and white. Like, I don't care, like, a color is a color. You know what I'm saying? And yes, our people have been put in a situation because of our color, but that doesn't mean we have to let that define who we are. You know what I'm saying? If anything, those trials and tribulations have made us stronger, and we got to take pride and strides in that. You know what I'm saying? And sorry I got off your question, but as far as an NFL or sports, as far as somebody in sports who's in a situation where they want to kind of reverse the stigma, the stigma against them, I just think they need to kind of, what we talked about before, be themselves. Because if you're truly being yourself, then people are going to see who you are. They're going to see God in you. You know what I'm saying? And everything that makes you you, it's going to impart something onto them. And then likewise, they'll want to impart themselves onto you. You know what I'm saying? And then kind of like we talked about before, that's how a relationship works. Like, oh wow, you do that way? Well, I kind of do it this way, but I like the way you do it. And then you doing something that they never seen before, and they're like, wow, I like how you do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we're supposed to. That's why culture. That's why we are black and white. Because there's beauty in blackness and there's beauty in whiteness, and we're supposed to meld that together. You know what I'm saying? And somewhere along the way, it just in history, in world history, it didn't happen like that. You know, and I think that's just sin. Sin's played its part. Yes. And what was the second part of your question?
Man, honestly, you pretty much answered it. And you got to what I was getting at. I would like to piggyback off of your answer, and I completely agree with you. It seems like, you know, as a black man, you're putting in it's almost like a double-edged sword. It's like, if you're not acting black, you're not black enough. You come across as educated, you're like a square. Now, I would also say there's almost like a third option, and it's to be quiet. Yeah. And I think that Kaepernick kind of revealed that when you're not quiet, you can face even more options.
Yes. So, in talking with, you know, I was in the military and this and that, and I was in the athletic world. So people feel like the national anthem was the wrong platform for NFL players to use as far as taking a knee, right? But then my question to them is, what is the right platform? If you have an agenda or issue that you really feel the nation needs to see, then you're going to use the biggest platform you can use. So I'm not saying they were right in doing it. I'm not saying they were wrong in doing it. But if you had a issue and you felt so strongly and deeply about that issue and you wanted to do something about it and you wasn't breaking the law, then you're going to choose the biggest platform you can do that. Not to say I'm mad at you, not to point fingers at you, but to say, look, this is something I'm going through. Like, look at me. You know what I'm saying? Look at me. And so I don't know. If you believe in something, then go for it. Is what I say. Go for it. If you truly believe in your heart that what you're doing is right.
So I remember reading a newspaper feed, and the former Cleveland Browns running back Jim Brown, he asserted in the paper that Kaepernick is playing both sides.
Yeah.
Either he need to pick and choose. Do he want to go in the NFL? Do he want to stay in the NFL, or he want to be an advocate? So how do you feel about that?
Why can't they do both? When Jim Brown told people back in the time he was growing up that as a black man he was going to be in movies and he was going to be the best running back ever, this and that, I'm sure people told him he was trying to do too much as well. And what happened? He did probably everything he said he was going to do. So how can you tell Kaepernick that you can't do everything that you want to do?